This is Daily Armenia, ＳիվiլNeթ's daily news digest. Here's what's making headlines in Armenia today. Turkish Airlines announced yesterday that it plans to launch scheduled flights to Yerevan, though no date or route details were provided. In its brief statement, the flag carrier said the move would depend on market conditions. The company did not clarify whether the flights would be operated from Istanbul or some other Turkish city. If implemented, the decision would carry political significance, reflecting the broader trend of normalization between Armenia and Turkey. The two countries have never established diplomatic relations, though they formally recognize each other. In recent years, contacts have intensified, including 2 visits by Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan to Turkey and several trips by Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan. A joint working group was set up in 2021 to pursue normalization, and Turkey's envoy visited Armenia earlier last month for talks. Negotiations focus on establishing relations and reopening the land border, which Ankara closed in 1993 in support of Azerbaijan's blockade of Armenia during the Nagorno-Karabakh war. So far, discussions have centered only on allowing third country nationals to cross the frontier. Despite more than 3 years of dialogue, progress is widely seen as tied to Armenia's relations with Azerbaijan, with Turkey reluctant to move forward until Yerevan and Baku take further confidence-building steps. Still, air connections exist. Turkish low-cost airline Pegasus already operates flights between Yerevan and Istanbul. Turkish Airlines is the country's largest airline and national flag carrier. Around 49% of its shares are owned by the Turkish government, with the rest publicly traded. The European Court of Human Rights has ordered Azerbaijan to provide a detailed report on the detention and health conditions of 23 Armenian prisoners held in Baku. Their legal representative, Siranur Sahakyan, told Radio Free Europe's Armenian service today. Sahakyan, who represents the captives before the Strasbourg Court, added that Azerbaijan had earlier requested to lift its reporting obligation. After objections from the Armenian government and our legal team, the court rejected Baku's request and ordered it to submit information on the prisoners, she said, adding that the deadline was set for November 4th. The 23 Armenian captives have been kept in complete isolation since June, after Baku expelled the International Committee of the Red Cross from the country. Sahakyan and the prisoners' families have voiced growing alarm, citing reports of hunger strikes and even suicide attempts among those held. In September 2023, after a 9-month blockade of Nagorno-Karabakh and a one-day offensive that forced out its Armenian population, Azerbaijan arrested numerous former leaders of the now-defunct Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, including 3 ex-presidents. Other detainees held in Baku include servicemen captured during the 2020 war, as well as civilians. Their return should be an immediate priority for any peace process, rather than something to be deferred until after a peace agreement is signed, Yeheshek Yerakosyan, Armenia's former legal envoy in international courts, said during a panel discussion hosted by ＳivilNeթ today. He added that Geneva Conventions prescribe immediate prisoner repatriation once hostilities cease. Armenia has delayed parliamentary hearings on the probe into the country's defeat in the 2020 war in and around Nagorno-Karabakh. The head of the commission overseeing the investigation announced today. The report, which spans more than 200 pages and includes a conclusions section of over 20 pages, draws on thousands of pages of documents, video evidence, and hours of testimony from top officials, including the Prime Minister, the Chief of the General Staff, and the Foreign Minister. Under Armenian law, the report must now be discussed in Parliament, though this had not yet taken place. Speaking to the Factor media outlet, Andranik Kocharyan said its publication is vital for the country's security. Among the major issues highlighted are corruption in the army, shortcomings in personnel policy, instances of treason, and misleading information provided by allies, all of which significantly affected the course of the war. The investigation also documented thousands of cases of desertion and other wartime crimes by Armenian service members, Kocharyan added. Commenting on the delay, Parliamentary Speaker Alan Simonyan said today that the report will be published, either censored or uncensored, sooner rather than later, attributing delays to the sensitive military information contained in the report. The 44-day war in the fall of 2020, launched by Azerbaijan, ended in Armenia's defeat. Yerevan ceded control of large parts of both the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic and the surrounding territories that it had controlled since the early 1990s, which provided a land connection with Armenia. A Russia-brokered ceasefire left Russian peacekeepers in the areas that remained under Armenian control. However, Karabakh was effectively surrounded and eventually came under a complete blockade. In September 2023, Azerbaijan launched a final offensive, displacing more than 100,000 remaining Armenians and forcing them to abandon Karabakh. The Russian peacekeepers failed to intervene. And as always, please follow CivilNet for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.